welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and honestly pretty provocative piece of writing by author Zhu Feng. It's titled, Please Take a Look and See If You Are Yourself. We're going to unpack a series of thought experiments designed to strip away all those external expectations and help you uncover who you truly are beneath the surface. Let's just get right into it. So, we start with a fundamental mystery of the human experience. The author points out something you've probably noticed. Humans are incredibly unpredictable. I mean, even if you've interacted with someone for literally decades, they can just suddenly change. It leads to that age-old saying that human hearts are hard to fathom. People often remaining complete strangers to us. And, well, this observation naturally leads to a really profound introspective question. If others are so unpredictable, who am I really? Am I myself? Or am I just as fickle and difficult to pin down? To figure out if we're actually our true selves or just, fickle strangers wearing a mask, the author guides us through a kind of Socratic journey. We'll be looking at 3 escalating hypothetical scenarios. And these aren't just random stories. They're specifically designed tests. They're meant to challenge your boundaries of autonomy and see exactly where you draw the line between your own desires and the opinions of others. All right, scenario 1, the peach dilemma. This is where we begin our test. Let's dive into this first, relatively low-stakes scenario. The author asks you to imagine walking right up to a tree and picking a beautiful, ripe peach. You take a bite, and it's incredible. Sweet, fragrant, just an absolute delight. You genuinely love it from the bottom of your heart. But suddenly, someone walks up and warns you that this isn't just any fruit. It's a demonic peach that's going to fill you with hellish desires. So, the thought experiment asks a simple question. What's your choice here? Do you keep eating? Or do you stop? The author creates a really stark binary to analyze your choice here. According to the text, if you follow your inner failings, ignore the warning, and just keep eating because you enjoy it, well, then you're being your true self. But if you let the judgment and fear projected by someone else stop you, the author argues you're no longer yourself. In that exact moment, you basically become a puppet, possessed by the consciousness of someone else. Moving on to scenario 2, confronting external pressures. Now we're stepping out of the orchard and into much deeper psychological waters. In this second hypothetical, the author escalates the stakes pretty significantly by confronting societal and religious taboos. Imagine you're experiencing the thrill of sexual love, specifically the blissful excitement of an affair. You feel wonderful, and you want to enjoy this happiness forever. But then, you read an article or hear teachings, maybe citing Buddhist or divine principles, warning that sex is harmful. These teachings claim it drains your energy from below and that lustful thoughts will ruin your chances of reaching enlightenment. So, once again, what is your choice? The text posits a pretty challenging conclusion here. If you ignore the external religious or divine teachings and just continue to follow your internal drive for pleasure, the text argues you're acting as an independent, complete person. However, if you suppress your own driving force out of fear of these teachings, well, the author claims you become a mindless wooden doll, completely controlled by the thoughts of others and totally lacking true independent consciousness. Which brings us to scenario 3, the Oasis test. This is the final and highest stakes scenario, dealing with community and organizational affiliations. For this one, the author actually uses a very specific example from his own context. Suppose you happily live as a Chanyuan Celestial in a community called the New Oasis for Life. You love this lifestyle. You want to stay forever. But then, outsiders begin to heavily criticize the group. They label the organization, Life Chanyuan, an illegal cult, and they call the leader, Zhu Feng, a demon who cheats people out of money and sex. Facing this intense external pressure and the fear of being suppressed, what do you do? Do you leave? This really illustrates the core of the author's thesis. According to the text, if you waver and move away from the community because you're afraid of the outside judgment, you've betrayed your own heart. By abandoning your true feelings, you are effectively kidnapped by fear, and you lose your true self in the process. Staying resolutely, despite the terrifying labels placed by society, is framed as the ultimate test of remaining true to exactly who you are. Next up, we're redefining the truth. Having laid out these 3 psychological tests, the text now pivots to redefine a concept we all think we understand. The crucial point here is how Zhu Feng asks us to view truth. In this framework, you need to completely forget about objective facts or universal scientific laws. Here, truth is defined purely and exclusively as your inner feelings and your innermost driving force. Truth isn't something out there in the world. It is the raw, unfiltered desire inside of you.
And the consequence of this definition is severe. When you listen to external preaching and act against that inner driving force, you aren't just making a compromise. You're literally violating the truth itself. The author states that doing this turns you into a fake person. The words you speak aren't yours. You become completely unmoored, like someone without roots who will forever be blown around by the storms of the outside world.
Which leads us to beware the megaphone effect. To drive this fake person concept home, the author shares a highly relatable anecdote. Reflecting on his college days back at a university in Beijing, he recalls a roommate who had a very specific conversational habit. No matter what topic was being debated, this roommate would start every single point with the exact phrase, "My wife said." He did this so often, in fact, that the other students literally gave him the nickname Mrs. Said. Let's see how this builds into a broader societal critique. The author asks, was that roommate still his own person? The answer is no. He was just a shadow of his wife. And the text argues that the world is absolutely full of these human megaphones, people who base their entire identity on external authorities, constantly saying, "My mother said," "the guru said," "the Buddha said," or "the organization said." These are people who cannot find themselves, basically because they've entirely replaced their inner truth with someone else's script. We see this amplified perfectly in the modern age. The author points out that the daily tsunami of articles crashing over us on the internet is largely just a collection of decorated, recycled thoughts. People are taking what others have said, repackaging it slightly, and publishing it as their own. Fundamentally, these articles lack a genuine self. They are not the true inner voices and feelings of the people actually writing them. Now let's look at becoming a true person. As we enter the final section of this explainer, we face a pretty stark warning about where the megaphone life actually leads. The author challenges us to do a bit of field research. He urges us to go out and talk to people who are over 60 years old. Specifically, ask them how they feel after spending their entire lives following the correct and instructive ways laid out by others, instead of just following their own inner desires. The text claims that the inevitable result of abandoning your true self for societal approval is profound, inescapable regret. Once you fail to live out your authentic self, and as you near the end of your life, looking back at decades of just doing what was considered correct brings this heavy, heavy sorrow that you'll carry for the rest of your days. But there is an antidote to this regret, and it's brilliantly captured in an anecdote from a WeChat group. The author observed a woman who was facing intense pressure from those around her to act more stable. Her response? Blunt and hilarious. She said, "Be stable, my ass. I am like a grasshopper in the atom, and I can't jump around for many more days. What stability?" She completely, unashamedly rejected the external pressure to conform. Reading her words, the author concluded that a true person had finally emerged. And this sets up our final, ultimate contrast. The text posits that the world of true people, those who act on their inner driving force regardless of society, is an exciting heavenly life. Juxtaposed against this is the world of fake people, a miserable environment where everyone just floats around like lost ghosts, causing life to be confusing, unhappy, and totally unfulfilled. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. We'll leave you with this final, provocative question derived from Su Fang's writings. Take a moment to look at the people around you, and more importantly, look within yourself. Have you traded your inner truth for the safety of external approval? Are you surrounded by ghosts, merely echoing what they've been told? Or are you living bravely in a world of true people? The choice of which world you inhabit is ultimately up to you. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.